Here on the Big Island, we are fortunate to have an active green waste diversion and recycling program sponsored by the County of Hawaii. This material is available for use by the community. We use this same material for all of the gardens you will see in the production. Unbelievable. What we're going to build and make together is a sheet mulch garden. Now, some people call it a recycled garden, and why they call it a sheet mulch garden is because it's layered in sheets. But we can call it a recycled garden too, because we use recycled materials. This garden can be built using very little dirt. So those of you guys who live in Puna and in these rocky landscapes around town here, you don't have to dig a hole in the ground to make a garden, because that's really hard in some of the places that we live. I'm lucky, I live in Hamakua, I can dig big, deep holes. This is a layered system that uses organic material, and it actually becomes like a compost pile. Does anybody have a compost pile at home? So you kind of know that that's where you throw some of your food waste and garden waste, and you turn it and you throw worms in there, and then you can use that for fertilizer. This is a method of using organic waste or green waste to grow food. And why do we make these? That's a good question. Well, it's a great way to recycle waste. It's also a way to cover the ground and reduce soil erosion. Soil erosion happens when it rains really hard and dirt runs off the landscape onto roads and goes into our rivers and into Hilo Bay. Have you ever driven by the bay and seen that brown water coming out of the river? That's soil erosion. And we like to reduce that whenever possible. This protects soil moisture because it covers the soil and protects the sun from evaporating moisture out of the soil, and plants need moisture. So the sheet mulch garden helps to do that. This also takes waste and diverts it from the landfill. Uncle Lynn and I went to the landfill, and they actually have a big pile now where they're taking green waste and they don't throw it in that big hole in the ground. They grind it up, and we're going to use some of that to make a sheet mulch garden. And we're going to encourage a lot of other people to do that too with this video that we're making. In areas with poor, infertile, rocky, or lava landscapes like here on the Big Island, growing a garden can be a real challenge. Even where soils are deep and healthy, digging, rototilling, and turning over the earth can be time-consuming, tiring, and use precious energy. Additionally, turning over the soil often kills soil microbes and makes it vulnerable to erosion. Cropping the same area continuously also makes nutrients scarce and depletes soil organic matter. This practice makes each following crop less productive, and often yields drop lower with every planting. As we look around our island home and elsewhere in the country, we find increased waste, more dependence on petroleum, and a lack of connection with agriculture and the food production system. Now, it is more important than ever before that individuals, families, community groups, and organizations become involved in growing their own food, recycling green waste, and in building rather than depleting their soils. Today we are going to address these issues and show you how much you can have a hand in recycling, building a garden, and growing your own food without turning over any soil. Welcome to the world of sheet mulch or recycled gardening. The sheet mulch garden was originated by Ruth Stout as a revolutionary approach to the standard hand-dug gardening methods at the time. She referred to these gardens as no-work gardens. Her ideas flew in the face of the common English gardening methods until people finally found out how simple and effective they were. Her techniques were also much less work as there was no digging involved. In the lava landscapes common to the Big Island of Hawaii, there is a great opportunity to build sheet mulch gardens using recycled materials from yard trimmings and local landfills. Today, we are going to demonstrate how to construct a basic sheet mulch garden on a difficult site here on the Big Island. But remember, these gardens can be made on any site with the proper techniques. First, choose a convenient site close to your house. Make a border using scrap wood, logs, old cinder blocks, tree branches, or stones. This will give you an idea of how much material you will need to make the first segment of your recycled garden. Make a circle, a square, or any other shape that you want. Here on the Big Island of Hawaii, we have no shortage of stones. So, like the ancient Hawaiians, a gardener could use that most common of resources to wall off the garden. Wear gloves, take your time, and be safe when arranging your barriers. And make sure not to take rocks away from existing structures that may have cultural significance. We need to have an 8-inch to 10-inch deep barrier for most crops. If root crops are going to be grown, this technique will require some modifications. Primarily, we will be growing above ground crops with our sheet mulch garden. First, weed whack or sickle down any existing weeds and cover them with cardboard or newspaper, and stack your stones or place other barrier materials along the outside edge of this weed mat. It can be several layers thick for newspapers, less for cardboard. Place the most coarse or bulky materials down next and crisscross them to allow for a hold-fast system for roots of upright plants to cling to if needed. Eventually, everything that is in the garden will break down over time. Add another layer of finer material a few inches thick and continue to mix different layers on top of each other as if you were building a sandwich. And we've used leaves from monkey pod trees, we've used coffee parchment, we use macadamia nut husks, we use grass clippings, we use shredded wood chips, all kinds of things that are available that normally would be going to the landfill and being thrown in the ground, where they will compost and get hot and maybe catch fire, and where sometimes material will be leached out of those and go into our groundwater. Every 3 layers, apply a light cover of well-composted chicken or animal manure or similar product. Care must be taken with uncomposted manure products due to the possible presence of bacteria. You can also sprinkle a commercial-grade fertilizer like 1414 or 10-30-10. Organic fertilizers are also available. Contact your local university agricultural extension agent for more information on fertilizer grades, types, and application rates. The reason why we need to have manure or a nitrogen-based fertilizer in the mix here is a chemistry issue relating to carbon and nitrogen ratios. Most, but not all, of our mulch materials are high in carbon, and we need to add nitrogen to help feed the bacteria that will break the carbon down and start turning our mulch into compost for the plants to thrive in. Once the process starts, the sheet mulch begins to look more and more like compost or artificial soil, and plants start to grow rapidly. Pre-composted mulch from a compost maker, compost pile, or pre-made compost bin can be used to feed a sheet mulch garden after startup. Here we have an application for root crops. This is an old washer bottom, and in it is a Hawaiian variety of sweet potato with a compost mix, and we'll be hoping to harvest root crops out of this application. You can use tires, you can use old food grade drums, plastic drums with some holes drilled for drainage, and when these vines begin to hit the ground, you keep them rolled back up so they don't start taking energy to ground. All the energy for fruit production will be in this tub, and you can do different root crops in these if you have a really rocky site a very sandy site or a poor site that's just not going to tolerate growing of root crops. Normally root crops aren't going in a normal sheet mulch garden because it's not deep enough, but these, of course, you have a lot of volume, so you can grow sweet potatoes and yams and carrots and radishes. And what we want to show you today is what else we can grow in a sheet mulch garden. You saw at the school and at one of the other places where we did one at my place, we had a lot of lettuce, but the sheet mulch garden is extremely versatile and you can grow a lot of stuff in it. And what we want to do is show you that today. This garden was planted June 1st. It is now July 13th. All this was planted at the same time. We've already harvested most of the lettuce out, and today we're going to harvest some other vegetables through the fence, and Naya's going to come over to this side of the fence and hold a bucket. Here's another one. This looks like one of our pickling cucumbers. It's prickly, so be careful when you pick it up. There you go. Okay, so we've got some cucumbers. Here, Naya, there's some. That one's got a bite on it. And we also have a pretty healthy zucchini plant here. And I'm going to cut a few zucchinis off. Here we are. Now we're looking at some zucchini. This is a healthy plant. Again, it was planted on the 1st of June, and it's now July 22nd. Let's take this one too before the bugs get it. And there's a bunch of little brothers and sisters on there. All right. You take a little bit of a nice flat area, you kind of push all your sheet mulch down, and you take a shovel with some potting mix or something in it, and you make a nice little line on top of your sheet mulch garden, and you can put seeds right in that, cover it up, boom, and it'll grow. Depending upon pest and insect populations in your area, pesticides may be needed in your sheet mulch garden. We have used organic approved compounds for the most part in our gardens. Consult your local agricultural extension service agents for further information on pesticides and their safe uses in your area. Today is the culmination of our sheet mulch garden project here at the local school, and we're going to give you a little demonstration on the harvest methodology. This is about a little over 4 weeks of growth in a sheet mulch garden, and you get an idea of how much can be produced in one of these gardens just by looking at this time frame. First of all, because of the threat of rat lung disease here in the islands, we want to make sure that when we harvest our greens that we rinse them and double rinse them and make sure that there are no slugs or snails in the crops. Now, it doesn't look like there are, but they can be very small, and under no circumstances should anybody be just picking stuff out of the garden here in the tropics and eating the greens. It's a habit that we're just going to have to learn to break, and even in other places, if there are slugs and snails around, it's not advisable. So we'll use a bucket of water to harvest our lettuce, and I use a cutter. You can use a knife, and I discard these exterior leaves that have been on the ground and any dirt that's on. We can recycle these later in the compost bin over here. And notice when we dip this lettuce, this is only our primary cleaning, what comes out from between the leaves. And we'll rinse each leaf individually again. We want to take some of these open head lettuces, and we'll do the same thing to them. Here's a nice one that's ready. These have only been in the ground, like we said, a little over 4 weeks. So the Sheet Mulch Garden can produce good greens for the family in pretty short order. And this is a pretty marginal site. It's not as marginal as some we have here on the Big Island, but it's rocky. And this area was probably scraped out. This is subsoil, so we're not even on the soil profile here. We're creating our own. And it's self-composting. So again, we dip, and you'll notice a lot coming out. And we're going to rinse each leaf again. You can see there's a lot of material in there, from grass clippings to a few little bugs. But this is a normal process of harvesting lettuce that everybody should engage in to be safe. And we're not done yet. In the bucket there's just water now. There may be other commercial compounds that you can get, but I would check with your local Department of Health and your extension service agents on what's acceptable. Now, these will go into a colander, and we will be rinsing each leaf individually. This is also a way to be more self-sufficient and to eat better food. In other words, instead of going to the market and buying it, where we don't know where it comes from, we can grow it right on our property and look at it and watch it grow and take it into our house and eat it. And we should be eating a lot more fresh vegetables. I know this is a big subject. The president's wife, Michelle Obama, is trying to make sure that you guys in all the schools get better nutrition and that people garden. She has a garden at the White House. The Sheet Mulch Garden instructional video is timely with respect to the People's Garden Initiative by USDA. This initiative is an effort by the U.S. Department of Agriculture to challenge employees and establish people's gardens at USDA facilities and to help communities create these gardens. People's gardens vary in size and type, but they have a common purpose: to help the community they're within and to help the environment. So the Sheet Mulch Garden can be used as one method of establishing a people's garden in your neighborhood or community.